you can get away without missing out. Whether you're traveling across Idaho or just spending more time outside, the Connector keeps you up to date with the local stories that matter, from wildfire season to community news. Stay connected to Idaho with the Connector, Idaho Daily News. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Cadet. For many families, the hours between the end of the school day and the end of the work day can be a difficult time to fill, especially when affordable after-school programs are hard to find. And here in Idaho, there's a pretty significant gap. A recent survey from the After School Alliance found that more than 169,000 Idaho children would take part in an after-school program if one were available, but only about 27,000 currently do. One new Boise nonprofit is hoping to help close a little bit of that gap with a particular focus on teens who may need some extra support and a place to belong. Aspen Grove Community Center was founded just last year by social worker and children's trauma therapist Lauren Simmons-Abusi. The organization is working with South Junior High and other community partners to offer free after-school and summer programming that combines art and creative expression with counseling, college and career preparedness, volunteer opportunities, and support for families. Now, this summer, Aspen Grove tested the idea with its first street art camp, partnering with Boise muralist Colin Pfeiffer of Sector 17. Well, now the organization is working towards something even bigger, a permanent community center near Boise's South Junior High, which it hopes to open full-time for after-school programming in early 2027. Well, Lauren is the founder and executive director of Aspen Grove Community Center, and she is joining us now live to talk more. Lauren, welcome to the show. It's really nice to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Gemma. Thanks for having me.
So before we talk about Aspen Grove, I'd love to spend a little bit of time getting to know you a bit because you've spent years working with children who had experienced trauma. So what did you see in that work that made you start thinking about prevention and what you could see that looking like?
Yeah, I think, my career began, I worked in a children's orphanage in Bolivia, and I worked with young girls that had been involved in drugs and prostitution, living on the streets. That really inspired me to become a social worker. I came back to the States and became a children's trauma therapist, and I just really saw the impact that trauma had on these children's lives, on their families, the rippling effect that it had. And I found myself it's such important work. Trauma work is such important work, and I have so much admiration for the therapists that do it. But I found myself asking this question of, if your house is flooding, do you grab a mop or do you find the source of the leak and turn off the water? And I just found myself saying, gosh, I wish I had found these kids earlier. I wish I had built up protective factors with them. And so that's what really got me inspired to do this work and to shift towards upstream prevention work.
So there are organizations in the Treasure Valley and in other parts of Idaho that do serve young people. But what did you feel was missing? And what are you trying to do maybe differently to fill that gap?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of really wonderful programs. A lot of programming stops at the teenage years, though, unfortunately. We have a lot of really great programs that are in the schools that help the elementary age school children, but there's a big gap in service for teens. I also feel like, more art programming is really important. Getting kids off screens and getting them to connect in, face to face is really important. Art has such a grounding effect. It's so healing for kids. And, creative expression and play and all of those fun things are really children's first language. Adults try to get them to express themselves verbally, but really being creative is kids' first language. And so that's what we're hoping to do with Aspen Grove.
So who are the teens that you're hoping will walk through the doors when Aspen Grove has a permanent facility? I mean, do they need to be referred to you? I mean, can any teen participate?
Any and all people. We want this to be everybody is welcome. We're really looking to support marginalized and low income families. And so, kids that are excluded for one way or another, kids that are marginalized for one reason or another, LGBTQIA teens that are looking for a safe place to belong, American families. We want this to be an inclusive space where everybody is welcome. And yeah, we just want to support their families. So yeah.
And as I said, you've partnered with South Junior High, which is one of the Boise School District's Title One's junior high schools.
Yeah.
What are you hearing from school officials about what its students need outside of the classroom?
Yeah, South was really amazing. I sat down with a lot of their administrators, with their social workers, their counselors, and I said, where are these teens going after school? What are you seeing? And they said they're hanging out in the McDonald's parking lot. They're getting in trouble at this one, strip mall down the street, and they're bored and they're lonely, and they're depressed, and they just need a place to belong. They need a place where they're engaged, where they have mentors that care about them, that care about their future. And so the school administrators were just saying they were so supportive of this. As you said, we hosted our pilot initiative this summer at South, and they were so supportive of having us. We built these pop-up walls. We, unleashed all these teens with 100 cans of spray paint, and they had a really amazing summer camp where they created beautiful murals, and their school administrators came to our showcase, and their family and friends all showed up. Neighbors walking by all showed up
Mm.
and saw the beautiful artwork that they were creating. And it was just a really exciting kind of community experience that we created for everybody.
So I mentioned some numbers in my introduction to you, right? And the numbers around after school programming in Idaho, I think, are fairly remarkable. As I said, um, more than 169,000 kids would participate in a program if it were available. Only about 27,000 currently do. Why do you think we've ended up with such a big gap like this?
It's real expensive to put on these programs, and I think cost is really a prohibitive factor for families. And so, there are some really wonderful, amazing camps, but a lot of families say they're too expensive. I've worked with the summer camp this summer. I had a couple single moms that said, if you hadn't offered this camp for free, we wouldn't have been able to attend. Another prohibitive factor is transportation, that there are some great camps, but they're hard to get to. And so we want to kind of fill that gap and say, have a free camp, have it right in their neighborhood where kids can access it. And yeah, I think that cost and transportation are two really big barriers.
And I love the idea of the approach you're taking of everything you're combining, right? Like you're going to have arts programs, you're going to have college and career counseling, you're going to have, counseling services, available, volunteer opportunities. Why was it important to put all of the things under one roof?
Yeah, I think in my experience with therapy, I'd have kids that would come in, they'd come see me for therapy. They'd go to another place for, occupational therapy. They'd go to another place for speech. They'd go to another place. And I just saw these poor parents that were already working so hard, just running ragged all over town to these different services, trying to support their kids. And it just inspired me to say, gosh, I want to have a place where it's a one-stop shop where kids and families are getting their needs met. I don't want to just support kids. I want to make sure that when I'm sending them home, that their families are growing stronger too. And so that's why we wanted to offer individual and family support, group services. We want to make sure that the whole family is supported, that and they're not running ragged all over town for all these different services. But if their kids need tutoring, we offer that. If their kids need counseling, we have that. If their kids just need a place to hang out and have a meal, we'll be that place.
And you are currently fundraising to build out the space and to hire after school coordinators as well as a case manager.
Mhm.
How much money do you need to raise to get those doors open and to have this be a permanent location?
I think, we really need about $150,000 to get the doors open. We're doing really well with fundraising right now, but if people want to help us build this, we really need about $150,000 to be able to get that after school coordinator to get the building built out. We're trying to build a multi-purpose classroom that will be open to the public to be able to use for, things that they want to, for groups, for classes, workshops. And then, as you said, individual and family counseling offices there. So that would be really, really helpful to us if people wanted to donate and help us build that.
And how would people do that if they wanted to donate? Can they just
Yeah,
contact
they
Aspen
can
Grove?
our website. It's aspengrovecommunity.org. There's a donate button at the bottom of each page, and people can make a contribution to this cause if they really believe in it. But there's also not just financial support. There's so many ways that people can get involved. What I'm really loving is that there's so many people excited about this. They're saying, I had a mom call me that said, I can teach the kids how to make homemade tortillas, and another
Mm.
parent said, my husband's a tattoo artist and he'd love to come in and draw with the kids. And so, retired teachers that want to tutor or mentor. And so any community member that wants to give back and wants to be involved, we welcome any and all ideas. So
I have about 1 minute left with you. If a parent or a teen happens to be listening right now, teens should probably be in school, but maybe the parents are listening. What would you want them to know about this and it being a place for them?
yeah, I would just want them to know that we're here for you. Reach out to us. Even though we're not open, reach out to us because we can help you find the resources you need. You're not alone. And I'd want them to know, the teens especially, maybe you haven't found your thing yet. Maybe you haven't found your people yet, but we can be your people and we will help you find your thing. And maybe art and volunteering in your community can be that thing that really inspires you and makes you feel connected.
Well, Lauren, I want to thank you so much for talking to us today about Aspen Grove. The best of luck to you with this. We've been speaking with Lauren Simmons-Abusi. She is the founder and executive director of Aspen Grove Community Center. And as she said, they are fundraising in order to get their building up and operating as a permanent facility in early 2027. And that'll do it for this episode of Idaho Matters. Make sure you check out our podcast feed because you can find more episodes of topics that might be interesting to you. And for more local news and headlines, make sure you subscribe to the Connector podcast. And if you haven't yet, could I ask you to leave us a review wherever you listen? We read every single one, and we'd love to hear from you.
The fatal shooting of a teenager at a protest in Seattle has gone unsolved for 6 years.
This is open in your face. How are there no answers?
Our investigation has uncovered new evidence and witnesses who say they've never talked to police.
Did police ever call you?
Not once.
Listen to We Keep Us Safe, a new true crime series on the Embedded podcast from NPR.